More Burrow spoilers within today's video. Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. Thank you all for taking the time to support the channel. Of course, my name is Hello Good Game. Pleased to be your host within this magic. I've chosen to still remain Hello Good Game. Maybe after my 10,000th video, I'll switch it up, right? At some point, maybe. Anywho, we're going to be talking about some new spoilers today. Going through the cards is really a first-time viewing experience for myself. So, discussing the strengths and weaknesses for each of the cards as we see them. Of course, I imagine our opinions will develop as the set in its entirety is revealed. And, you can get a better judgment of all the cards compared now against each other. Rather than just, what we already have seen in the past, which is still good to do, of course, but definitely more in-depth analysis once that entire set has been revealed or spoiled. So this is like our second video. We have a bunch of cards to go after this as well, and I think like 100 to talk about today. So we better get after it. And of course, there's not too much time to waste. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, become a YouTube member, join the community Discord, kick back, relax, and let's take a look at some of these new cards. Here we are with the Brambleguard Captain. This is a 4-mana, 2-power, 3 toughness mouse soldier. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X/+0 until the end of turn, where X is the captain's power. That's fine. It makes it a good target for spells to power up. It's 4 mana though, and that's just way too much, right? I guess you would take this in limited as a filler card. It doesn't really supply much for its 4 mana as a 2/3. Like, that's not gonna cut it, right, in my opinion. But you take what you can get in those specific scenarios, and it is a mouse. I think we're gonna have that as a pretty aggressive aggro deck within Boros, I would suspect. And it's also soldier, but I'm not entirely certain how relevant that will be. Moving on, Sugarcoat, 3 mana. This is an enchantment aura with flash. Enchant creature or food, and enchanted permanent is a colorless food artifact with pay 2, tap it, sacrifice this artifact, gain 3 life, and of course it will lose all other card types and abilities, which is quite nice, right? So they're going to get some food out of it, which would, I guess, result in some life gain potentially for them. But you're dunking on whatever that was, and if you can convert a planeswalker into a food token, or Shieldred into a food token, something like this, you're doing really well for yourself. And it's nice to see some, instant speed removal in blue that's not a bounce, right? We do love the auras. Of course, they can remove them, but it is also fairly uncommon for that to be happening. Moving on, the Quake Tusk Boar, 5 mana, 5/5. Reach, trample, haste. Okay, settle down. And that's it. This is, not terrible. It has trample, it has haste, it's a 5/5. The reach isn't really relevant, I don't find, specifically in conjunction with the haste. Reach is more of a defensive keyword, right? Where trample and haste are very offensive based. So it is really kind of like a solve all in limited. I'm not sure this would make it, let's compare it against the Bonehorde Dracosaur. Doesn't cut it, right? Just value-wise. Maybe like the trample haste, but there's probably still better things out there. But for limited, this is like really doing it all. It can be the defensive creature. It can be what pushes in on a 4-turn clock as well, right? Forcing them to block, and now you get optimal removal or something like this, right? Blockers. I like the boar. That's not bad. It's not something I'll build around in constructed, but good value nonetheless. And it's important to discuss all of this. Consumed by Greed, 3 mana as an instant speed uncommon gifted card. They will draw before the effects go off the stack for 3 mana, and they're going to sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures that they control. If the gift was promised, you'll return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, right? So if you let them draw a random card off the top of their library, you get a specific card from your graveyard. It will have to be a creature, of course, but the fact of the matter is you can control what you're getting, and theirs is RNG based, and it could be a land, right? Could be a land. And of course, you can choose not to gift as well. So probably not great, 3 mana, but in limited, removal is, really, really good. Manifold Mouse for 2 as a 1 power, 2 toughness mouse soldier. This is a rare with Offspring 2. So, as we cast it, we can pay an additional 2. If we do, we'll get a token copy of it. That's a 1/1. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a target mouse you control gains your choice of double strike or trample until the end of turn. Again, we're kind of discussing how maybe a mouse Boros aggro deck is emerging, and this would, fit right in. Early game as a 1/2, not bad. With rotation, we are losing the Intrepids. The bloodthirsty Intrepid, what was the adversaries they were called. The Intrepid Adversary, the bloodthirsty adversary, right? These 2 mana cards that you could push additional mana into mid or late game. We see Offspring kind of supplementing this. Early game, it's a 2/2, 2 mana 1/2, sorry, and then mid game you get that 1/2 of course for 2, but an additional 1/1 where you're able to now stack these powerful abilities that they hold. In this case, double strike, trample, to help you, which I like. And also, on that note, very good after, say, field wipe, right? You have that 4 mana, you have that 5 mana, and now you are rebuilding at a pace you would not have been able to via the additional value within your cards. Moving on. Azoralin, Cosmos Caller, 3 mana. This is a 3 power, 3 toughness legendary creature, Bat Cleric, a rare with flying and vigilance. Whenever a bat you control attacks, you gain 1 life. Oh yeah, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may pay 2 and 2 life. When you do, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. The fact that this is bringing any non-land permanent back, not just a creature, is quite good. Paying 2 life and 2 mana is substantial, but I'm sure through the bats attacking, you can mitigate that quite easily. I don't mind it. I think this is a fantastic card. Really good value. 3 mana. Helping support one of the new tribal archetypes. Pretty decent. Mabel's Metal, 2 mana, instant speed, uncommon. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Up to 1 target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. Other creature as well. Limited shenanigans during your combat phase to ensure that the your blockers or attackers survive, whatever it happens to be, and your opponent's left with something suboptimal as you're the last to cast. Valley Rally, 3 mana, that's a good name. Instant speed, gift a food, right? So creatures you control get +2/+0 until the end of turn. If a gift was promised, target creature you control gains first strike until the end of turn, right? So you give them a food, you get first strike. Either way, you're going to get +2/+0 on all of your creatures, which isn't terrible. I'd maybe like to see trample potentially, but first strike's not too terrible. Double strike would be even better. Sunspine Lynx, 4 mana. This is an elemental cat, rare, 5 power, 4 toughness. Players can't gain life.ca. Damage can't be prevented, and when the Lynx enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. While we're losing a lot of non-basic lands, Triumphs go, these slow lands also go. However, there are still plenty available. and more on the way each set. So great card. I think it's more of a sideboard card for red. The damage can't be prevented is amazing in specific scenarios. Players can't gain life as well, and then maybe even more so if they happen to be playing with a bunch of non-basic lands, right? So pretty decent. I'm not certain if this will make a best of one deck. I mean, of course, yes, you could build around it and make the deck, but will it be in the competitive, World Championship deck? Maybe only in the sideboard, right? Let me know your thoughts on this one. Is this something that you would main deck in best of one? Or would you only do so if the meta obviously dictated so, right? If it was, saturated with life gain decks, you would probably mainboard this, right? If it was saturated with non-basic land decks, then of course, there may be a time to mainboard this also. Always, thinking about it. The Brazen Collector, 2 mana, 2/1 with first strike, Raccoon Rogi, and whenever it attacks, you can add 1 red to your mana pool until the end of turn. You're not going to lose this mana as steps and phases end. We're seeing the Gruul Expend deck, rear its head at us. I'm not entirely certain if it could outpace a Gruul Dino deck. However, it looks quite interesting where many of the creatures generate additional mana, and then the expend mechanic wants you to be spending a certain amount of mana, it's like quite a bit, right? So, it could be good, right? Where you're generating mana through your creatures to spend more mana each turn, now triggering expend. I kind of like the idea of it. Heartfire Hero, 1 mana, 1/1 mouse soldier with Valiant. For the first time each turn, it becomes a target of a spell or ability you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, it's going to deal damage equal to its power to, dare I say, each opponent. What? It doesn't matter, right? For Arena, we're playing one-on-one, and it doesn't necessarily matter so much in Commander decks either, as you're limited to 1 card of each name, but each opponent, settle down. Just like people are going to be playing this and just wiping everyone. I mean, you also play with more life there though, but don't put it past them. Those Commander players, they're up to no good. Galewind Moose, 6 mana, 6/6 with Flash, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. So this is like pretty good and as close as green's ever going to get to destroy target creature. I mean, without a fight or damage equal to power or whatever, right? You just flash block, right? Throw a 6/6 in front of their attacker. Yes. And then, I've got Vigilance as I attack next turn with Trample, so you're not really stopping that. And I've got Reach to grab your flyers with my Vigilance to defend after I've attacked. This is what you would call a limited bomb. It's only an uncommon, but my, oh my, the value you could get from this. Brambleguard Veteran, 3 mana as a 3-power 4 toughness Raccoon Warrior, an uncommon as well, and whenever you expend 4 raccoons you control, get +1/+1 and gain Vigilance until the end of turn. A perfect example of what we had mentioned earlier. Gruul Raccoons. That's a long way from dinos, right? Raccoons better be more powerful than dinos or I'm going to rage. It just makes sense. Iridescent Vine Lasher, 1 mana, 1 power, 2 toughness, Lizard Assassin. This is rare with Offspring 2. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. First thought is going to be the deserts that deal damage. Now you're getting 2 damage per land. Second thought, A, it's non-legendary, you can stack it. B, it has Offspring, so stacks itself. Yeah? So this is absolutely phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. We'll have Rakdos Lizards as a deck archetype. Potentially a Jund Landfall deck. But the Vine Lasher is looking real good, That is fantastic. Specifically, you know, if now you're playing multiple lands per turn, things like this, right? Whew! Multiple copies of this with multiple lands per turn that already deal damage. Just stop it. The Bright Blade Stoat, 2 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness with first strike and lifelink. This is a Weasel Soldier that is uncommon. You know, I really feel like Weasels got done dirty here. It's a very tribal-based set, but the Weasel doesn't fit in. Poor guy. Moving on, we have the Heartfire Challenger. This is a rare mouse warrior with haste and prowess. It also has Valiant. You're going to, when it's targeted with a spell or ability for the first time you control each turn, exiling the top card of your library, and you may play that card until the end of the turn, which is actually really, really good, right? Like a Monstrous Rage into draw, you know, the Augury or whatever it is, or come on, they don't need more card advantage. And again, you know, we're talking about the Boros mouse aggro. Maybe it's mono red. I don't know. This seems fantastic though, right? Haste, prowess, 2/2, base stats, fantastic. Plus it's, you know, a card advantage engine. Settle down. Splash Lasher, 4 mana, offspring 2 as a 3 power 3 toughness frog wizard uncommon. When this creature enters, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Honestly, not terrible. We love stun counters, and the offspring would result in a double stun counter. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Frogs and Simic. Simic Frogs will be the creature archetype there, and it does a lot of flicker, which would be good for the ETB retriggering. Impeccable Recycling. This is an instant speed, 2 mana spell, gift a card, so they'll draw, right? And you will return permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If you did the gift, you're going to grab 2 target permanents from your graveyard to your hand instead. You know, it's a thing. I think, do you also create a food token here? Maybe not. Translating is hard in real time. The Mist Breath Elder, 1 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness, frog warrior. This is a rare. And at the beginning of your upkeep, return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on the Elder. Otherwise, you may return the Elder to its hand. Fantastic. This is, you know, we're talking about a flicker effect. Not as good as a flicker, but still pretty decent as it can convert the value into +1 counters, specifically if the mana value is low or you're reducing it in a way. You know, you just recapitalize on it, enters the battlefield effect by replaying the card. You know, it's not ideal, but it can happen. It can be okay. Specifically if it's only 1 mana. Right? This is non-legendary. You can stack this. Simic Frog's looking pretty cool. Feather of Flight, 2 mana. An enchantment aura with flash, enchanting a creature, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Fantastic. The enchanted creature will get +1/+0 and gain flying. Of course, this will trigger a Valiant on you know, the variety of creatures within the set, which is quite good as well. And the art is just absolutely obscene. Flying Lizards? No, thank you. Hired Claw, 1 mana. 1 power, 2 toughness as a lizard mercenary, as a rare as well, so let's maybe pay attention here. Whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, Hired Claw will deal 1 damage to target opponent. 2 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on the claw, only if an opponent has lost life this turn, and only once each turn. Nice mana sink. Honestly, a 1 mana 1/2 that can consistently deal damage when it attacks is A, not bad. But now B, we have a mana sink that puts it to a 2/3, right? A 3/4. That's substantial. And you can do this once on your turn, once on your opponent's turn. Okay, okay. I like that. Hivespine Wolverine, 5 mana. An Elemental Wolverine, uncommon, 5 power, 4 toughness. When it enters, choose one of the following 3, putting a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. The Wolverine will fight a target creature. Nice. Or destroy target artifact or enchantment. Okay. That's not bad. That's really, really good. The fight on a 5/4 is good, plus the artifact and enchantment removal. And worst case scenario, if none of that, grab a +1/+1 counter. Which technically it would be a 6/5 if you put it on itself. The Bark Form Harvester, 3 mana, 2/3. That is a changeling. Nice. A shapeshifter. Common card. Pay 2. It has reach as well. Sorry, pay 2. Put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. If you can reduce that 2 to 0, sure. If not, I don't think so. Treetop Sentries. 4 mana, 2 power, 4 toughness. Squirrel Archer. A common card here as well. But, let's not discount it yet. With reach. When it enters, you may forage. This will be the exiling of 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrificing a food. If you do draw a card, not bad. I have no problem with that. I love to draw. Longstalk Brawl, 1 mana, sorcery speed. Gift a tapped fish. Well, that's oddly specific. Choose a target creature you control and target creature you don't control. Put a +1/+1 counter on the creature you control if the gift was promised. Then those creatures fight each other. The fish is tapped, so can't block, as it is a sorcery speed pre-combat spell. I guess. I like hard-hitting question more, maybe. The Steam Path Charger, 2 mana, 2 power, 1 toughness, Lizard Warlock, Offspring 2. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target player. Very much a filler card. Bonecash Overseer, 1 mana, as a 1 power, 1 toughness, Squirrel Warlock, Golgari Squirrels, an uncommon. You can tap it to pay 1 life, drawing a card, activating only if you have 3 or more cards left in your graveyard. Sorry, only if 3 or more have left your graveyard, which is hard to do. Settle down. Or if you sacrificed a food, that's maybe a little bit more reasonable. Squirrels are gonna just be the worst. Scales of Shale, 3 mana. This is an instant speed spell that will cost 1 less to cast for each lizard you control, potentially down to 1 mana. Nice. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains lifelink as well as indestructible until the end of turn. Not terrible. Obviously, it's going to be really good if you're playing a lizard deck, but that constraint really does limit it. Dire Sight for 3 at Sorcery. Surveil 2, drawing a card. Sorry, drawing 2 cards. Surveil 2, then draw 2? Then you lose 2 life. Okay, there's the kicker. Sorcery speed for 3. Honestly, it's not terrible. Specifically, if you're running it with like the Ashiok, where if you pay life, you just exile cards instead. So you're not actually losing that life. Well, I mean, it's 3 mana, it's sorcery speed. Kind of a bummer. But we like to draw, right? Conduct Electricity, 5 mana, instant speed, 6 damage to target creature, and 2 damage to another target creature. Token. Really expensive removal, but you take what you can get. It's in limited, of course. It's the only time I'd run that. Finch Formation, 3 mana, creature, bird, scout, 2 power, 2 toughness, offspring, 3. Wow, expensive. It has flying, and whenever this creature enters, target creature you control gains flying until the end of turn. Offspring 3 seems like a lot. Like, we've seen so many cards that have better abilities that are only Offspring 2. But I guess that's the difference between a rare card and a common card, is the cost of that value as well, right? Thought Shucker, 2 mana, Threshold 2, put a +1/+1 counter on the Shucker and draw a card. Activate only if there's 7 more cards in your graveyard, and only once, as a 1 power 3 toughness rat rogue. Dewdrop Cure, 3 mana, sorcery speed, gift a card. Return 2 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. All right, I like this. If the gift was promised, instead return 3 creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Settle down. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be gifting them a Sunfall. Stop it. Life Creed Duo, 2 mana, a Bat Bird. This is a hybrid, ladies and gentlemen. 1 power, 2 toughness with flying. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. Burrow Guard Mentor, 2 mana. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. Very nice. And it has trample. Okay, I can see this being played. Ren the Relentless, 4 mana as a 3 power, 4 toughness legendary creature rat rogue that is a rare with Ward 2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, it will be exiled instead. Thank you very much. And at the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of total creatures your opponents controlled that were exiled this turn. That's ridiculous. You're creating X of the tokens, and each of the tokens gets +1/+1, where that is equal to X of cards exiled this turn. Or sorry, for each other rat, which would, again, be equal to X and then compound each turn. Wow. I mean, it's no Shieldred, but dang, dude. There's a lot of jelly in these donuts. Innkeeper's Talent, 2 mana. This is a class enchantment. You have to pay to level it up. For 2 mana, it will enter, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Not bad. Taking it to level 2. Permanents you control with counters on them have Ward 1. Fine. Finally, level 3 for 4. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on the permanent or player instead. Loyalty counters on your walkers. Thank you very much. Bant Planeswalkers will love this. I don't even want to say it. Toxic and poison counters. Oh, get out. I think a lot of that is leaving. No, it stays. Phyrexia. The mites all stay. I don't want to. I hate toxic. It's the worst. Moving on, we have the Thistle Down players. 3 mana, 3 power, 3 toughness, mouse bard. Whenever the players attacks, untap target non-land permanent, which is actually not that bad. That's quite good. The infamous Cruel Claw, 3 mana, a 3 power, 3 toughness, legendary creature, Weasel Mercenary. This is a mythic. Let's buckle up. It has menace, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. What, is this an alchemy card? So this is the best card I've seen. That's ridiculous. Discard a land and cast Breach the Multiverse. Don't mind if I do, Hugh. Don't mind if I do. That's ridiculous. Stop it. Downwind Ambusher, 4 mana, 4 power, 2 toughness with flash. When it enters the battlefield, choose one of the following 2. Target creature and opponent controls gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. Destroy target creature and opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. That's not terrible. The 4/2 is, you know, pretty decent as well. Like, it's quasi-removal. Plus, it hits hard, right, on that attack, which is right away, and they probably didn't leave a blocker for it because of the flash. And it could itself block as a removal spell. So it could enter, remove something, and then chump block as a secondary removal. Even, you know, maybe surviving that block with that ability. Pretty decent. It's expensive, though. Dawn's Truce, 2 mana, instant speed, gifted card. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until the end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until the end of turn. That's fantastic. Destroy all, yes, please, single targets for hexproof, but Sunfall. I know, it's a circular argument. Stargaze, 2 mana plus X sorcery speed. Look at X twice off the top of your library. Put X cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, and you lose X life. Again, we've talked about losing life here. You might just want to run this with Ashiok. and then you don't have to worry about that so much. But maybe you want to lose life, right? Take that down and maybe take advantage of that in typical Rakdos fashion. Either way, pretty cool. Big draw. Late game, this could be quite nice. Sorcery speed, bit of a bummer. Let's be honest, specifically if you're going to be sinking a bunch of mana into it. That's your turn, right? And it's not a draw, it's look at and put into, which could be good and could also be bad. Worth noting. Oh man, the season cards are good. Season of the Burrow, 5 mana, sorcery speed. Choose 5 paw counters worth of modes, and you may choose the same mode more than once. 1 paw counter, create a 1/1 rabbit creature token. 2 paw counters, exile target non-land permanent, its controller draws a card. 3 paw counters, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it will have an indestructible counter on it. Ooh-wee. So the way I look at this is if you're playing a Convoke deck, it's a free card. If you don't want to use the other modes, just cast it as the 1/1 rabbits, and then you can convoke those rabbits, and it's like you got them for free. Yes, easy peasy. The Mage for 2 mana as a 2/2 with Offspring 2, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, the Otter will deal 1 damage to each opponent. I mean, not terrible. Each opponent, the Offspring 2, it's only 2 mana as a 2/2. That's just fine. Byway Barterer, 3 mana, 3 power, 3 toughness, Raccoon Rogue that is a rare with Menace. Whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand when you do draw 2 cards. Now, to recap, expending is just a cumulative count of your mana spent each turn. Draw 2 cards? Draw 2 cards? Whoa! Star Charter, 4 mana with flying as a 3/1. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, look at the top 4 cards. 4 cards! Oh my god. And you may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them, put it into your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. I mean, it's card advantage. A 3/1 flyer is not terrible. 4 mana is a little bit, but again, that value generation each turn, may I add, is it's worth 1 mana at least. So I think this is pretty good. Moonstone Harbinger, 3 mana, 1 power, 3 toughness, flying, death touch as a uncommon bat warrior. And whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, bats you control get +1/+0 and gain death touch until the end of turn. This ability will trigger only once each turn. Okay, they're complementary. Nice. Orja of Bats. Starfall, Invocation, 5 mana, sorcery, gift a card, and destroy all creatures. If the gift was promised, return a creature from your graveyard into the battlefield. It does have to be put into the graveyard this way. So that is, it has to be in play first, which is good because people love, like, oh, I'm going to discard this and bring it back around turn 3. So at least it already has to be in play. But with that being said, if it's kind of a stalemate, toss this in there and, let's go to town. I don't mind it. Specifically good with a nice ETB that would re-trigger as it enters again. It's no Sunfall. But I like it. Bark Knuckle Boxer, 2 mana, 3 power, 2 toughness, Raccoon Berserker, uncommon. Whenever you expend 4, Boxer gains Indestructible until the end of turn. That's not bad. That's like pretty good on a 3/2. For 2. Harnesser of Storms, 3 mana, 1 power, 4 toughness, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell or Otter spell, you may exile the top card of your library, and until the end of this turn, you may play that card, and the ability will only trigger once each turn. 3 mana is not terrible. It's a 1/4, very defensive. Good card advantage, right? That can trigger each turn. The Persistent Marsh Stalker, 2 mana, 3/1, Rat Berserker, uncommon. It gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. You guys got to stop it with this. Like, that's way too aggressive. Threshold, whenever you attack with 1 or more rats, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, you may pay 3. If you do, return the Marstalker from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking, which would then immediately get that bonus again. Oh my god. That's a good uncommon. I mean, its constraint is that it has to be played within a rat deck, but still good. Still good. Drift Gloom Coyote, 5 mana, 3 power, 4 toughness, elemental coyote or coyote. Uncommon. When it enters, exile target creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. If that creature had power 2 or less, put a +1/+1 counter on the coyote. Okie dokie. 5 mana is way too much for this, but we'll allow it. I mean, in limited, you take what you can get, and it's just a removal with a creature. Absolutely. Long River Lurker, 3 mana, Frog Scout, uncommon, 2 power, 3 toughness with Ward 1. Other frogs you control also now have Ward 1. And whenever the Lurker enters, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. And whenever that creature deals combat damage this turn, you may exile it. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, taking advantage of what I would assume to be an ETB. Nice. Husk Burster Swarm. This is a 6/6 elemental insect that is an uncommon, and it will cost 1 less to cast for each creature card you own in exile and in your graveyard. Is this going to see play in other formats? Question mark. It has Menace and Death Touch as well. There has got to be a way to abuse this. I'm certain of it. I mean, it sucks an 8 mana creature in your opening hand, but it's not bad for 1. And if you could consistently get it there, very good. The Mockingbird is a 1 mana plus X bird bard. That's a 1/1 with flying. And you may have the Mockingbird enter as a copy of another creature. With base power and toughness equal to the mana spent to cast the spell, except it's a bird in addition to its other types, and it's flying. Sorry, let me read this. You may have the Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value equal or lesser than the mana spent to cast it. Okay, so it's like a shapeshifter that copies something already in play, and it will be a bird and have flying in addition to its other types. Not bad. That's not terrible. So I got what you got, and it's like nice and cheap as well, which I appreciate. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Bandit's Talent, 2 mana. As it enters, each opponent discards 2 cards. Whoa, unless they discard a non-land card. Okay. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that target player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, they're going to lose 2 life. Oh, wow. That's not terrible. It's only 1 to upgrade it to level 2 also, but 4 to upgrade it to level 3. And at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 fewer cards in hand. That's quite good, specifically if you're playing like a commander match, right? Nice budget card too, uncommon, good value. Huh. I don't mind. Hearthborn Battler, 3 mana, 2 power, 3 toughness, Lizard Warlock with Haste. It is a rare, and whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, the Battler will deal 2 damage to target opponent. This is, again, really nice in game modes with multiple players. It's fine because you can cast a multiple spell. Your opponent can cast a multiple spell like Ledger Shredder. And if you even had, add more opponents, then it's even better. But I almost think better in those bigger games because it might not be fast enough 1v1. It's got haste, which is nice as well. And that can kind of supplement its lack of general base stat value. But its ability is quite nice. The Splash Portal is a 1 mana sorcery spell that will exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If that creature is a bird, frog, otter, or rat, draw a card, which is pretty decent, right? So a flicker, sorcery speed, just who cares? But maybe it serves a purpose in a specific spot. Otter Sports for 2 mana at sorcery, creating a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. If it was cast from somewhere other than your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. And you can cast it from your grave, which would trigger that ability via the flashback for 4. Little expensive. Again, that's sorcery speed, but the token I don't think has haste either, which is a bit of a bummer. It'd be much better if it did. Maybe my translate's wrong. Paw Patch Formation, 2 mana, instant speed, uncommon, choosing one of the following 3, destroying a creature with flying, destroying target enchantment, or drawing a card and creating a food token. Not terrible. But again, probably not necessary. Into the Flood Maw, 1 mana, instant speed, gift a tapped fish, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand if the gift was promised. Instead, return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So that's quite nice. Instant speed, bounce creature, instant speed, give him a fish you do, and you bounce anything, which is phenomenal. Very good instant speed spell here. So we're losing Fading Hope, right? And we're like, oh, what's going to replace Fading Hope? Because that scry on that bounce at instant speed for 1 mana is just so good, right? Also losing Play with Fire, so I'm liking this. Maybe we'll see a replacement for that as well. Fading Hope can't bounce walkers. This can. I like it. I like it a lot. Wick the Hmind, 4 mana, 2 power, 4 toughness, legendary creature, rat, warlock, and whenever another rat you control enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black snail creature token with, if you don't control, create a 1/1 black snail creature token if you don't control snail. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on the snail that you already control. We can pay 3 within Grixis colors to sacrifice the snail to deal damage equal to the sacrifice snail's power to each opponent. Again, that is phenomenal. That's so good, each opponent. And then draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power. Whoa! That's some pretty good value. There's a lot going on there. A, you get to deal damage to each opponent, and then B, you're drawing cards equal to its power. Plus, you're making that token and then powering that token up. And that's whenever a rat enters the battlefield or itself. And when's the last time you played one rat? They come out in like flocks. They're not birds. What do you call swarms? Oh my gosh. I don't mind it. I do not mind it. That's pretty cool. 4 mana is a lot, but that's like a lot of jolly. The Hidden Grotto. This is a reprint entering the battlefield, scrying, surveilling one. Tapping for a generic mana and then paying 1 to tap for a mana of any color. The Water Spout Warden, 3 mana, 3 power, 2 toughness. When it attacks, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, it will gain flying until the end of turn. Wow, groundbreaking. The Bumbleflower's Sharepot, 2 mana artifact. When it enters, create a food token. And then we can pay 5 to tap and sacrifice it to destroy non-land permanent at sorcery. That honestly not that bad. Not terrible. I mean, it is for a constructed deck, but in a limited build, you would just take that as removal, right? That's good for any deck because it's colorless. The Light Shell Duo, 4 mana, Rat Otter, another hybrid, 3 power, 4 toughness with prowess, and when it enters the battlefield, Surveil 2. 4 mana is expensive. Waxwane Witness, 4 mana. Oh my gosh, I can't escape them. 2 power, 4 toughness with flying and vigilance as a bat cleric. And whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. Vine Reap Mentor, 2 mana as a 3 power, 2 toughness squirrel druid. Is this a rare or an uncommon? I cannot tell. I'm going blind. When it enters or dies, create a food token. Could go either way on that rarity. I think it's a common. But maybe it would be a bad rare. I mean, it's not terrible. It's got to be a common. Uncommon, sorry. The Polywallop, 4 mana, instant speed spell, will cost 1 less to cast for each frog you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to creature you don't control. In a frog deck, I suppose. Starlit Soothsayer, 3 mana, bat cleric, 2 power, 2 toughness with flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, Surveil 1. Okay. Wick's Patrol, 6 mana, 5 power, 3 toughness, Rat Warlock. When it enters, mill 3 cards. When you do, target creature and opponent controls gets -X until the end of turn, where X was the greatest mana value among cards in your graveyard. You know, it's a decent body, and it acts as removal as it enters. Please don't flicker it. Guard, 2 mana, 3 power, 1 toughness, Mouse Soldier with Valiant. Spell or ability you control each turn +0/+2 until end of turn. Pay 1, sacrifice it to destroy artifact or enchantment. We like that, don't we? Clifftop Lookout, 3 mana, 1/2 with reach as a Frog Scout. When it enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put the card into the battlefield tapped and the rest in the bottom in random order. Nice. We like to ramp it. To ribbit. Stop it. Take out the trash, because that was a terrible joke. 2 mana, instant speed, dealing 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card, not barred. Frilled Spark Shooter, 4 mana, 3/3 Lizard Archer with Menace and Reach. When it enters, it will do so with a +1/+1 counter on it if an opponent has lost life this turn. Meh. Darkstar Augur, 3 mana as a 2 power, 3 toughness Bat Warlock. This is a rare with Offspring 1. That is good. It has flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Man, that's so sick. I like that quite a bit. Origin of Bat's going to be lit. Helga, Skittish Seer, within Bant colors as a 1/3 legendary frog druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, draw a card, gain 1 life, and put a +1/+1 counter on the Seer. Selesnya Power 4 just became Bant Power 4. We can tap it to add mana of any one color where X is the Seer's power. Spend only to cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater or X in its cost. Wow, okay. That's pretty cool. It's a lot of value you could generate. Season of Gathering, 6 mana, sorcery, 5 paw counters. Spend them. 1 paw counter, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains vigilance and trample until the end of turn. Nice. 2 paw counters. Choose artifacts or enchantments. Destroy the chosen type. 3 paw counters. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures that you control. Decent. Gossip Talent, 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, whenever a creature... once it's in the battlefield, I should say, whenever a creature you control enters, Surveil 1. Not terrible. Not great, obviously, for 2 mana. But you can pay 2 to level it up a little bit more. And whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less cannot be blocked. And now that's, actually pretty good. Furthermore, we can take it to level 3 for 4. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may exile it and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control on that same turn, of course, which is really nice. ETB is going to re-trigger, and that Summoning Sickness drops. It untaps itself, so it can now defend if it didn't have Vigilance. So that's not good. That's like pretty good, right? Plume Creed Escort, 2 mana, 2 power, 1 toughness. Bird Scout, uncommon with flash and flying. When it enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until the end of turn. That is phenomenal. Very, very good. Curious Forager, 3 mana, 3 power, 2 toughness. Squirrel Druid, uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you may forage, exiling 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrificing a food. When you do, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Could be better. Mouse Trapper, 3 mana, 3 power, 2 toughness. Mouse Soldier, uncommon with flash and valiant. First spell or ability each turn. Tap target creature and opponent controls. That's actually, fairly good in an aggro deck. Shut out their blockers. The Whiskervale Forerunner as a 4 power, 3/4 Mouse Bard as a rare. Valiant, whenever becomes a target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn that you control, look at the top 5 cards of your library and you may reveal a creature with mana value 3 or less from among them and put it into the battlefield. If it's your turn, and if you don't put it into the battlefield, you may put it into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. It's no knight, but it's still real good. You know, anytime that you're able to look at 5 cards at a time and grab one of them into play, like that's something that shouldn't be, you know, brushed over. Are we able to make it work? Maybe. We'll see. Daring Wave Rider for 6 mana as a 4 power, 4 toughness Otter wizard with, you know, uncommon status. Whenever it enters, you may cast a target instant or sorcery card with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. That's actually quite good. If it would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So, you know, this 6 mana 4/4 now becomes a 2 mana 4/4, which is really, really good. Of course, if it's in your opening hands, you know, it's not as good, but late game, this is just putting out the value, right? Very, very cheap. As, you know, that 4 value is basically just being cast from your grave, right? The Night Fisher, 5 mana, 4 power, 5 toughness bird knight with flying. And whenever another non-token bird you control enters, create a 1/1 blue bird, blue fish creature token. I mean, that's a token engine in uncommon is decent. It's a 4/5 with flying, right? So that's a big boy. That's going to put in some damage. Very fantastic within limited, right? I'd be grabbing this every time I see it if I was playing blue. The Wishing Well, 4 mana artifact. Tap it to put a coin counter on the well. When you do, you may cast a target instant or sorcery card with mana value equal to the number of coin counters on it without paying its mana value. And if that spell would be put into your grave, exile it instead. All of this at sorcery speed. You could proliferate that. Also, just double value. You can't get it in play till 4. You can tap it immediately because it's an artifact, though. Cast something for free, which really makes it only worth 1 mana. And then if you get double activation, that second one is 2 for 3 of total. Now it's down to 1 mana, so you can see how this can begin to pay for itself. It's its own thing, right? I don't mind it. I kind of like it. The Long River's Pull, 2 mana instant speed gifted card, counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. Oh, that's nice. Double blue kind of sucks, but really good. You can counter any spell for 2 just by giving them a draw. If it's a creature, you don't have to give them the draw. Brambleguard Captain. Is this where we started? We've come full circle, ghouls and goblins. Oh my goodness. 52 minutes of spoilers. I think our first spoiler video was around the 50-minute mark as well. I can't believe it. We've made it through. We have the majority of the set spoiled. Still some more cards to go. And then I think we're going to get the foundation spoilers starting right away as well, if I'm not mistaken, which is super exciting. So, you know, while we wait, we're going to start theory crafting, right? Building out some of these new decks, kind of testing them. Very much looking forward to the early access event. No information on this yet, but I would assume, of course. And yeah, so thank you all so much. Let me know what you think of the set in the comments below. Have a magical day. We'll see you soon in the next.